As business owners, entrepreneurs, family men, it's difficult for us to find the time to put together projects like these. Even though it's something we really want to do, unfortunately, taking care of the things we have to take care of comes first. However, because of viewer support for people like you, we're able to continue doing this. Please consider joining our Patreon and supporting the Burn and Return podcast. You're listening to Burn and Return, a weekly 1-hour podcast covering news from the agricultural and turfgrass industries. Boo is right. Welcome to another episode of Burn and Return. For those of you tuning in for the first time, this is our weekly, mostly weekly podcast where we discuss the latest news that influences our industry, that is the green industry. My name is Matt Martin. Alongside me, I have Ryan DeMay and Ray Ito. We are three gentlemen who are in different segments of the turfgrass industry, and we come together here to give each of our perspectives on these stories that affect everything from agriculture all the way down to mowing lawns. And the reason why we talk about such a diverse range of topics is because they're all interconnected, even though they're a bit independent of one another. Like, for instance, if you primarily do residential lawn care, then you may not have a whole lot of agriculture in the back of your head. But in reality is that lawn care is a bit of the dirty stepchild of agriculture. And so a lot of times what happens in agriculture rolls downhill and ends up affecting that industry. And of course, you have some things that end and originate in golf, and how much that parlays and crosses over to sports turf as well. So anyway, that is what we do. Gentlemen, Ryan, Ray, how in the hell are you?
I think I'm good for the moment. I'm good.
Ray, the weekend has been long. We're recording this on Sunday, and for those of you that are listening to this, I don't know when this is going to be posted, but we're doing a 2 for today. We're going to do 2 episodes back to back. But
yeah,
over the last 2 weeks, Ray, this is coming out of 4th of July weekend and all that. Let me ask: have you had to pull out the AK at all?
I don't have an AK to pull out, but
polite problems.
I'm nervously walking around with eyes behind the back of my head.
Why?
I mean, that's people in general. And
I get that. I feel that.
The collectivists all want to whitewash everything that goes on, and at least here in Hawaii, there's this blind spot where as long as a firearm is not used in the commission of a crime, it's all right. And smoke gets blown up my ass about how just because there's no gun involved, that makes it okay.
Hey, keep the smoke out of Ray's rear end. I think that's something that we can all get behind there. We can all agree upon that no one in their right mind deserves to be blowing smoke up Ray's rear end. DeMay had to step away for a second, but he'll be coming back shortly. J-Pink, how about we go ahead and dive into this week's headlines? Dun, 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 dun. This is just the news. Just the news it is. And I figured, what the hell? This seems to be, kind of circling that anybody who follows agriculture right now is definitely in the midst of discovering this. And I'm going to talk about the Sky News article first because it kind of talks a little bit in a broader sense what is going on with Dutch farmers. If no one is aware that there has been an economic policy that has been put forth by the government of the Netherlands, and a lot of this is coming at the recommendation of the World Economic Forum and Klaus Schwab and all the people who know much more than we do. Who was it? I believe it was President Dwight Eisenhower who said that something along the lines. This is not a direct quote, but it's summarized somewhere is like, the pencil pushers could never understand the difficulty of farming, right? And then I think that's a lot of what we're seeing in regards to the frustration from Dutch farmers. And so we'll start with this here, which kind of gives a highlight of it. It says Netherlands agriculture and horticulture organizations, White's Cinema, says there's a broad sense of frustration, anger, even despair amongst farmers amid proposals for nitrogen reduction target plans. Farmers are protesting around the Netherlands over the government's new policy, which would see the country slash nitrogen oxide and ammonia emissions by 50% by 2030. There's a map now outlining nitrogen reduction targets of 50% nationally, 70 up to 95% in certain areas, Mr. Cinema told the Sky News Australia. And imagine if you're a fifth generation farmer living on your land, making a living, being part of a local community, and you see a map saying that basically there's no future for farming, but also no future for the economic, social, cultural fabric of the countryside. And then we can kind of move in here about how that has devolved, where Dutch farmers protested, and they didn't necessarily just protest, like standing out there with signs being like, hey, listen, you gotta understand, we're farmers, help us out here. Instead, what they did is they got real in the sense of how livestock raisers could really get real, and they loaded up manure tanks, and they took their happy ass right into downtown and started spraying manure all over downtown and government buildings and the sort. And you talk about a poetry in action. That is, in my opinion, one way to send a very clear message of what is the phrase we hear in the United States? Don't tread on me, kind of sort of deal here. And of course, this is where it gets weird, right? Because what happens is, well, someone gets their panties in a wad when they're in a position of power. And Dutch police, they actually started firing shots at tractor riding farmers who were protesting against plans to cut nitrogen emissions on Tuesday evening in northern Netherlands. Police said they were responding to a threatening situation when the farmers who were attempting to push past a blockade to get onto a highway in the province of Friesland started to drive their tractors into officers and their vehicles. According to the Friesland police, their shots hit a tractor, but no one was injured. 3 suspects were arrested. So anyway, this whole thing here is going to be weird, and it's something that is worth keeping an eye on. Now, as far as why the optics of this is so off is the timing, right? We're in the midst of record inflation, supply chain shortages that we've never seen before, food shortages in developing and even developed nations that we've never seen before, with more on the horizon. And so to bring this front and center right now to the people who are probably most stressed right now, because if there's pressure on anything, it's going to be pressure on the energy sector, and there's going to be pressure on the commodity sector, agricultural commodity sector. So those two right now are definitely feeling the impacts of everything that's going on, arguably, in my opinion, harder than the other industries. Now, you could say like semiconductor industry is probably facing a pretty good one right now, but Taiwan seems to be getting things out on time. But, there's the great fear of China invading Taiwan and how that ends up impacting, the semiconductor. But we're not there yet. But where we are right now is indeed issues with natural gas, issues with ammonia production. We have the potential of CF Industries, especially in Europe, CF Industries throttling production because they simply can't afford the natural gas. We have Yara over in that area who has throttled production because they can't afford the natural gas. We do have the big urea plant out of Africa that is feeding portions of this right now, but they're limited to urea. They're not supplying natural gas. They have supplied a little bit of ammonia. But I don't think they're at 100% capacity right now, and so it's a tough situation. So to come in and say, hey, look, in the midst of all this, where everybody's scrambling and freaking the F out, By the way, we're going to go ahead and cut fertilizer or nitrogen, at least where livestock is raised, by, I don't know, 50%. And we don't like these areas that have been farmed for a real long time. So, maybe 70% or 90%. And again, exactly like the article said, if you're a fifth generation farmer, sixth generation farmer, and you see that, and chances are, if you've been around that long, you're one of the ones on the chopping block, and that is not a fun position to be in. So, boys, my question to you is this a positive thing? Is this going to be a net positive thing that is going to reset the world economy and bring us back to a unified force that fights for the betterment of each other, the betterment for the planet, better interpersonal relations between countries? Or is this going to be something that is used as fodder to drive an even further wedge between us and them and all the other types of things we see in the news right now that is purely politically designed to make sure everyone is as peak crazy as possible? What are your thoughts?
So, man, to answer your question directly, yes, it will be used. It will be used as an us against them, or this side against that side, or whatever, right? But as we have seen, especially in the last, I don't know, 5-10 years, right? There is much more substance under the surface than meets the eye, right? So this whole story starts like, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, actually, probably like 5 or 6 now, where the EU basically came in and said, hey, you're going to have to cut nitrogen emissions in specifically the agriculture sector, and we don't necessarily care how you do it to a certain extent, but it needs to get done. Well, so one of the things that happened in this case was that the Dutch agriculture minister at the time said, well, guess what? We'll just raise the level that we're supposed to be at, and then when we make the cut, we'll end up right back where we were before. No harm, no foul, right? Well, the EU caught onto that, kind of got pissed, and basically said, hey, listen, now we're going to tell you how you have to do it and give you a little bit more direction on how you have to do it. And so that, ever since, has caused a little bit of a rift right within the government about how to proceed with this and everything like that. The crux of the story now is that they are having to make these cuts, right, to get to a certain level. But before, they were during this whole like intermediate period between when the EU came back and slapped hands and things like that, the Dutch government, removed all the caps that they had previously had on the number of animals that you could have on your farm. So what happened was you had a whole bunch of farmers saying, well, fuck, if there's no cap, I'm going all in. I can make, I can make more money. The more animals I have, the more I can produce. And that has sort of brought this thing to a head of people are at peak production. They've got a lot of money leveraged and invested in, the animals and the infrastructure and everything to handle them, right? All this livestock, and produce and send, product to market, everything like that. And now you've got the government coming in and saying, hey, music, just stop. See if you got a chair, right? And what's going to take place, what's already started, is a microcosm of what is going to happen with all the climate change stuff and with all the emission stuff. Is that, we've been worried for a long, long time that third world countries, right, developing nations, wouldn't be able to handle this kind of thing, right? From a logistical standpoint, yes, but also from a funding standpoint, from how do we teach these people that have, basically made their lives for generations, right, or longer in this industry or in this field. Now you can't do it anymore, or you can't do it the way that you once knew. How do you just change that, right? So I think that is what's going to happen here. Is you're going to have smaller farmers who are the most impacted because they're either highly leveraged and there's no way for them to get out. So they were talking about government buyouts and things like that, and I'm sure they'll be fair, but maybe not generous, right, to the point where, oh, hey, yeah, I got that government buyout. I'm just going to go on Easy Street and retire, right? Maybe go down to the red light district, Maybe, hey, listen, whatever happens there is between two consenting adults. But I think that's the crux of the whole issue here, is that there's very little thought about the impact, the downstream effects of all this. And I agree that, yeah, hey, is there stuff that should be cut and levels that should be lowered? Probably, yeah. There's a striking body of evidence that would suggest that we need to do that. However, to do that in real life means people are going to be affected, right? Ultimately. And yes, you can say that, hey, there's a lot fewer small-time Dutch farmers than there are people in the world that would be impacted by climate change. I don't disagree with you on that, but I do think that there has to be some mechanism for these people to be made whole and to not let them feel like they've been ostracized or alienated from everything that they've ever known, right? Just because it's got to be, a certain number has to be hit or a certain target has to be hit. So it's an unfortunate thing, and I think, at a macro level, Ray, what we're seeing here is just as everything else, as we've seen these last several years, the velocity of change. That is the problem. That is the crux of the entire issue here, is how quick all this stuff is coming, at least seemingly, and and how people perceive it to be coming, and that's what's fucking shit up. And so I think the expectation setting that these politicians do is piss poor. I mean, let's be honest. If there's anybody poor at expectation setting, it would be like I don't know. I can't. Well, never mind. I was going to say something. I was going to do a callback from the pre-show, but
okay,
like girlfriend that we watched on TikTok going to the sushi bar.
Yeah. Well, elected officials, because you see, the elected officials listening to these NGOs. What grinds my gears is the lack of actual honesty and transparency, because all of these moves, okay, let's cut nitrogen emissions, let's cut livestock production, let's do that. But Ryan, can you or Matt tell me what the actual end result of these measures will be? What is the actual end result? Because I know what the end result will be, or the consequence of actually successfully doing this is. And you know what that consequence is? Depopulation. Okay? Tell me now, who is going to have to die? Because what I'm seeing, or what I've become aware of in the last 10 years, and this has been a very recent evolution for me, is I've come to realize that a lot of these environmental movements, the end result of it is that either somebody's going to have to go, or alternately, we are going to have masses of deprived people with the very few still living relatively comfortable and cushy lives, where in fact the people living the very comfortable and cushy lives, I think they need to get thrown out in the forest with nothing but their bare ass, and let's see how they live their low environmental impact lifestyle then.
And Ray, let me interject. And before people hear that and are like, Ray, you're crazy, I can't believe you'd say that. Here's the thing, is that, okay, we limit livestock production in this area. We are not limiting the rate of population expansion. We are not reducing the number of people on the planet. Therefore, the need to consume protein, which arguably is where the livestock is, the whole reason for the raising of livestock.
Yes.
It's going to have to be replaced with something. So we're passing the buck on to something else. And is the idea here that we're all going to move to a plant-based protein diet, and that's going to sustain the next stage of population development and the growth of the planet? I don't think so, because those plants are going to have to be fertilized in order to be produced. We have all of this emphasis on sustainable agriculture, right? Well, here we've got livestock production. Can't that be turned into be sustainably a sustainable fertilizer and some other facet of crop production? We're not a shrinking population, and so therefore, if we limit it here, it has to be replaced somewhere. I don't know if you're looking at cattle futures and stuff right now, we're not exactly flush with a shit ton of extra cattle just laying around there that we have to get rid of because, oops, we raise too many of them. That is not the case right now. And so even so, we limit cattle, right? We limit red meat, and then we flip it over to what? Chickens? Okay. What do chickens produce? They produce a ton of manure. That's actually going to be a higher concentration of nitrogen. We switch over to pork, the same thing. We switch over to some other obscure animals, sheep, whatever. It's the same thing. There's no escaping it. However you do this, and so and again, in my opinion, what makes this so extreme and probably what has everybody on edge to an even greater degree is the timing of it, right? And exactly like you said, DeMay, the velocity of which this thing is taking place, especially the optics of it taking place right now. There's already, fear indexes are already peaked out, and now we're going to throw livestock limitations right on top of it in the midst of all that, and it sends people into a tizzy, and I completely understand. But then from a long-term perspective, yes, are there things we need to do to mitigate nitrogen emissions? Sure, 100%. I'm all for that. Is it spreading out how we raise livestock? It's going to have to go somewhere. Are the Netherlands saying that, look, we can't do it here, so we're going to move it next door to the country next door? And then what happens if it becomes too extreme there? I know Ireland is going through the same thing because it's kind of the whole EU that's facing this thing, right? And now Ireland farmers are starting to get pissed off too, right? And I if I recall correctly, it's either sheep or lamb that they primarily raise there that's going to be called into question. So again, we're not really limiting the problem. We may be limiting it inside the boundaries of one country, but in terms of the economic impact on the planet or the climate impact on the planet, and both of those are going to be interconnected, right? We're not actually solving anything, in my opinion, because we're just placing the burden of responsibility onto something else in the agricultural sector to take its place.
You see, things are don't happen in a vacuum because, like you said, what then becomes the source of protein and calories and vitamins? Because it is scientific fact that plant-based substitutes are lousy. They suck at promoting actual health. And I will put that out there. In fact, Matt, I will die on that hill, okay? And you know why this kind of caught my attention, that this is happening to the Dutch? Do you know why the Dutch are tall and relatively healthy? Do you know why their population enjoys such good health in general?
Why is that?
It's because of all of the milk and meats that these people naturally and normally consume. Okay,
I was going to say
that is
unfiltered cigarettes and legal prostitution, but I might.
Well, that just keeps them chill. Okay, that just keeps them chill because you see
that's how you tame the Vikings.
The post-coital joint, keeps people mellow. But that I'm talking about people in general, because I can't help but notice now.
That was poetry, Ray. That was poetry.
Yeah, because you notice how you go look at the height statistics for various countries. The Dutch are among the tallest people, right? They're the tallest people. Whereas you compare that to, say, Japan or China, those people are among the shortest. And that is because of a vegan forward diet in those countries. So
a little bit of fish, a lot of rice, a lot of greens.
Yeah. I mean, that stunts people's growth. Bottom line. And I find it especially concerning in that a government would propose this, and then is this government thinking about the actual health and longevity effects.
You know, when they have these government meetings where they call everybody in and they're sitting down and it's all the world leaders, I'm curious, when they are serving dinner, what do they have on the menu? Because if they have a tomahawk steak or a ribeye or a New York strip or anything on whatever they call that in the EU, filet mignon, I think they deserve to have someone defecate on their plate and that be served for dinner. All right, next article
actually,
here.
Yeah.
what were we going to say, Ryan?
No, actually, yeah, that is the hypocrisy and the evil that I'm talking about, where it's fine and good for these people to say everybody else goes without, yet they don't make the same sacrifices. Like, I want these government leaders to then subsist on the Soylent Green or whatever crap they suggest that the masses subsist on. I mean, what's good for the goose is good for the gander.
So much for balance in that article, DeMay. Sorry about that. Treated seeds, a focus of consent decree. The EPA will decide by September 30th to spell out how much regulatory oversight is needed for pesticide-treated seeds after the agency opted for 5 years not to respond to regulatory demands for oversight of treated seeds from environmental groups. The decision could affect seeds for nearly every corn and soybean acre planted, as well as other crops. EPA on Wednesday published a proposed consent decree for a lawsuit filed last December by the Center for Food Safety and Pesticide Action Network of North America. The agreement states the EPA will decide by September 30th on whether to begin drafting regulations for treated seeds or reject the environmental group's demands. The two groups had sued EPA because the agency had not responded to a 2017 petition filed by the groups demanding EPA regulate treated seeds as a pesticide rather than allow treated seeds to avoid regulations under EPA's treated article exemption in the FIFRA. In late 2018 and early 2019, EPA asked for public comments on the environmental group's petition and got back 16,343 total comments on it. EPA then never followed up on how to handle the petition, sparking the lawsuit. So it goes on and on and on. Here, and this is what a couple statistics here. Treated seeds are now used on an estimated 180 million acres. My goodness. And then that, and where that ends up happening is that, they have to sell the seed within a limit, right? A time limit. And if you go beyond that time limit, that seed is no longer available for resale, right? And then that gets turned into waste. And that's, it gave Procter for the development of companies like Alt-N, who had a ethanol plant and, of course, a biochar facility. And it led to the production of 84,000 tons of toxic distilled grain piled on the site. Not a good thing, right? So I see this in both ways. From a crop production perspective, it is cheap and easy insurance at the time of planting, right? Mefenoxam, for disease prevention, or imidacloprid for pest resistance immediately from the point of germination, right? Because so many times at the point of germination is the most critical point of development for the plant. And if you do have something as extreme as like Pythium attacking young plants immediately from the get-go, and it spreads across 1,000 acres, then that farmer is absolutely foodbarred. So I do understand it from that point. But at the other end of this is, do we really need to treat 180 million acres of seed? I don't know.
Okay, Matt.
Yep.
This is one area where I am actually an advocate for some oversight regarding these treated seeds, because, Matt, problems with treated seeds have happened before, because you mentioned mefenoxam, right? That's a relatively low toxicity fungicide for use against Pythium and damping off. Well, prior to the 1980s, a common fungicide for seeds was this fungicide called Penogen. And let me tell you what Penogen is. Penogen was the brand name for dimethylcyanamide mercury.
Oh.
Sounds like it works.
Yeah. Or good old phenylmercuric acetate.
Oh yeah, that one.
That was a seed. That was also a seed fungicide back in the old days. And
back in the old days, we had mercury bioaccumulation. Today we have PFAS. We just trade one for the other. But it's organic.
Yeah. But then the thing is that mishandling and repurposing of those mercury treated seeds has caused some catastrophes back then, because mercury doesn't go away, right? It's there, it bioaccumulates, and especially toxic is not inorganic mercury or mercury inorganic salts. It's these mercury compounds that are complexed with organic molecules like panogen or phenylmercuric acetate. So,
180 million acres that is a lot. I mean,
that's everything, Matt. That's about everything, because you see, I look and I see how most crop seeds, Matt, get a combination of mefenoxam, strobilurin fungicide, and a neonicotinoid. That is just standard practice for these larger fields, is that they get a 1, 2, 3. They get the ultimate green dock special. And so, but, in doing that, though, I then have to treat or consider these seeds just as good as a 50-pound package of pesticide. It's as good as a pesticide to me. I consider it as good as a pesticide.
I would say so.
Yeah. Would you agree?
Oh yeah. DeMay, here we have Ray being a bit of the voice of reason here. Add to this. Give us something.
I mean, there's I'm not going to pretend to know every single in and out of the regulations surrounding treated seed. I understand them, but not at a deep level. But
sure, yeah, me neither.
I will say this is that just like Ray said, it's an added layer of security. It's something that I think has just become common practice, right? And just because the big push against them, or the knock on them, is that they can have deleterious effects on soil organisms, right? Specifically endophytes. And so, is there something there, and is there something that we can use in lieu of those? I don't know. I think the whole idea there is one that I don't know what this additional regulation would look like. It's something that we're just saying, hey, you'd have a stated reason, or insurable losses in the previous year due to Phytophthora pythium, whatever your pest du jour is, to basically account for this. So I get it. I'll be the voice of reason and say that it should be looked at, and it should have the due diligence put behind it to say, hey, this still is a good practice and it makes sense, or hey, only in these cases should we be using this. So there you go. You got 2 out of 3, maybe 3.
Okay, because I got one more to add to this. Is that, do you guys know how apparently bees are getting most exposed to neonicotinoids? Do you know what this research has found?
No.
It is not from application to turf or ornamentals. Most of the exposure comes in the form of, say, seed is treated with clothianidin or imidacloprid or thiamethoxam, which, by the way, is very commonly done, right? Mm-hmm. When that seed is being planted, especially with these seed planters that use a stream of compressed air to shoot the seed into the furrows, as the tractor's going down the field.
Yep.
Okay. That dust of neonicotinoids that comes off of those seeds and then drifts off into nearby weeds, which may be in bloom. What happens to the poor bees that come in contact with that dust?
Nighty night.
Aloha. Exactly. I mean, that is, and that is something that I can believe, because you have this coating on the seed that is not exactly very tightly bound, because basically, let me describe the seed treating process to you all for those that don't understand. What they do is they have a concentrated solution of these insecticides and fungicides that gets sprayed onto the seeds, and then it's dried, and then it's bagged up and sold to growers who then use the seed to plant their fields. But it is still, in most cases, just a slurry or a solution that is just sprayed on and then dried. So it's very possible for that product to easily knock off or flake off and become airborne. It's not hard.
There's no doubt about it. We are out of time, but we'll go ahead and roll through this last one here. A Chinese company's purchase of North Dakota's farmland raises national security concerns in Washington. A food manufacturer, Fufeng Group, bought 300 acres of land near Grand Forks, North Dakota, to set up a milling plant. It is about 20 minutes from the Grand Forks Air Force Base, and it's not just the location to the Air Force Base. It's what goes on at the Air Force Base that has people quite concerned, especially people in the national defense area. And specifically, what the Air Force is doing there has a lot of unmanned drone flights and a lot of communication that takes place with space-based assets. And so it has bipartisan support for absolute freaking the F out about the proximity to it. So it's roughly, the guy who sold it, he said it's 12 miles away. It isn't like it's next door. And, put it this way, the neighbors were super pissed. The guy who sold the property to the company said, I've been threatened. I've been called every name in the book. How would they gain any knowledge of the base? It's about 12 miles away. It isn't like it's next door. Well, I mean,
hello, naive.
Has 12 miles ever stopped a country before from taking advantage of proximity? I mean, let me ask you this: if the border between Ukraine and Russia was 12 miles wide, do you think it would have stopped the invasion?
No.
Anyway, it's an absolute asinine thing to pretend, like, oh, it's just 12 miles. And I think rightfully so from a national security perspective that it is something that should be talked about. But here's the other thing too, is that what kind of security's at this Air Force base to protect against this? I feel like there should be some pretty extreme security here where it shouldn't raise too many concerns of espionage, right? Because of whatever data stream, encryption or whatever they have going on. I don't know.
Actually, Matt, I would red flag and nix this right off the bat, because what if this farm, this quote unquote farm, is nothing more than a front so that inside the barn or whatever, you have the Chinese spy agency in that barn working 24 hours a day to crack whatever encrypted communications they can pick up from that base. And the fact that they're only 12 miles away makes it that much easier. I mean,
yeah,
this just is bad. Okay, this is just really, really bad. It's like because let me ask you this: can you imagine a Chinese interest setting up a few miles away from Pearl Harbor, for example? That ain't gonna happen.
Or in Guam, or
yeah.
I mean, it would.
Hell no. Hell no.
I don't know. It definitely makes the hair stand up on the back of your neck. DeMay, are we overreacting here? Should we sing Kumbaya and welcome our neighbors?
No, there's got to be some funny business here. And listen, if one of our favorite and most dear patrons, Telly Coleman, if he almost got a chick pregnant from 12 miles away, I got to think the Chinese government's got some shit that they can figure out. The little, and that, trust me, there was no espionage involved with Telly's. There was car knowledge. Okay, so
12 miles, huh? Yeah.
All right, gentlemen. I don't see anything here, but that may not be it's here. But how about we talk about this week's Joe Knows Turf? Joe's Turf. Hi, I'm Joe.
I'm gonna give you a bunch of accurate turf facts today because Joe knows turf.
Now, gentlemen, in the short history of this particular segment, we've never had a repeat. We've never had an individual put content out that was sent to us specifically for the reason of going on Joe Knows Turf, which, by the way, thank you to our sponsor, our friend, Joe the Lawn Warrior. Great dude. Awesome dude.
Thanks, Joe.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. So, anyway, this one is brought to us this week by the Pest and Lawn Ginger. And I'll frame it up here like this, is that he put out a video to talk to people about how to identify crabgrass and Dallas grass and I believe orchard grass and how to correctly identify those, which wasn't bad. It was pretty good as I watched that part. But the part that really had me concerned and the reason that it was sent to me was this. Let's go ahead and watch this and see what y'all think.
Treatments. If you've identified that you've got Dallas grass in your lawn, the next step probably isn't going to make you much happier. There's a couple of products out on the market like Revolver and Certainty that claim that they can treat Dallas grass. But once you get into the label, they only offer suppression, which means it's going to stunt the growth. It'll appear to be dying, but then it's going to keep growing. And they want you to treat week after week after week. Now, the idea behind this is you treat it week after week after week to make sure that it doesn't form a seed head, when in all actuality, you could have just dug it out, saved yourself a lot of time. Now, the other funny aspect about these products offering suppression is there's made mention of one that actually controls Dallas grass to combine with these other products, which is kind of weird. Wouldn't you just go to the other product? Well, the reason why people don't is because that product is only rated for golf courses and sod farms, but it's called MSMA. Now, the label does stipulate that it does
You gotta
control...
be fucking kidding me.
Wait.
DeMay.
Oh my God.
Okay. All right. Sorry.
Wait.
Keep going.
Oh
Keep
my
going.
God.
Dallas grass, and there's been a ton of people that have been very happy with it. Now, if you're certain that you have crabgrass, the best option for you to do is use a product called Tenacity.
J Pink, we will need that clip if you go back about 5 seconds. Keep going.
And there's been a ton of people that have been very happy with it. Now, if you're
that
certain,
we're going to need it. That's going to be a soundboard quote. Go ahead and keep going.
A ton of people that have been happy with it.
That you have crabgrass, the best option for you to do is use a product called Tenacity and mix it with a non-ionic surfactant. Now, the reason why I love this combination is because the Tenacity, if you spot spray it, will bleach the crabgrass white.
All right. Now, listen, the Tenacity and all that kind of stuff, we've talked about it before. It's whatever. So before we address the main issues, let's try to educate first. Let's harness all that energy that you've got in you right now, Matt and Ray, and let's talk about a productive solution. If you have Dallas grass in a cool season lawn, what do you do? Ray?
You sure as shit do not fucking spray any of the suggestions he put forth. Go ahead, Ray.
Yeah, I mean, Matt just took the words right out of my mouth. Please don't put Certainty on a cool season lawn, for one thing.
Or Revolver or MSMA.
Yeah, please don't do that, because Revolver, correct me if I'm wrong, is that not certain death for a cool season turf? Isn't that like dead? Because Revolver's serious business. I mean, I use that on hard to kill grassy weeds in a Bermuda or zoysia lawn. But then I know don't ever bring that near a cool season grass. And next, tenacity. Okay, tenacity on crabgrass by itself is lousy. It is poor. I mean, and next, Dallas grass. Other than one herbicide that costs about $400 a bottle and may work over repeated applications, the other thing that's more effective on Dallas grass is either plain old glyphosate or a pick. You know, sorry. I mean, I don't have any good news there.
So
again,
go ahead.
Hey,
I was gonna,
just real
go
quick.
ahead.
Let me just get this off my chest. Especially if you're in areas where he is, you're going to see one, maybe two plants of Dallas grass. Dig the damn thing out. Put some sand back in its place. Be done with it. If you're in the South, like I am, chances are wait till the fall. Do a renovation, a partial renovation, just a section of the lawn, something of the sort to get rid of it. If you have some clumps here and there, a little bit too much, say it's an acre and you've got 30 or 40, then you want to start looking at something like Pilax or combined with Flazophop, maybe adding a little sulfentrazone to your Pilax, something to broaden your spectrum of control. You're going to be making multiple applications in the fall. And that's just the way it is. There's no great answer, but here's the thing. The highlight. No. I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop right there. So we've identified options. Fluazafop has Dallas grass control on the label. Pilex has Dallas grass control on the label. Again, follow the spot spray application rates on that. I believe that's going to be 1 milliliter per 1,000 square feet. And again, you're going to be making multiple applications of the timing of that. Where are you going with this, DeMay? Because boy.
Now okay. So now we've cleared up the options specifically in a cool season lawn. He's not talking about warm season. He doesn't make any mention and provide any context to that effect. And so that's why I thought it was important that we address what the options actually are in a cool season situation. Now, with that being said, my question for both of you, as you know, just commentary in your own opinion, is why would somebody with a following of J-Pink, help me out here, 115,000 people watching this, right? Or they has the ability to watch this, subscribe. Would they put out content that suggests using chemicals that are, number one, not labeled for the particular grass that we're on, number one, or number two, that we're talking about chemicals that are specifically not labeled for anything in residential turf? Why would that take place? Help me out.
Purely for attention. There is no other reason that would take place aside from attention. All press is good press. Negative press is good press, right? And the fact that it's painted in such a positive light. And if anybody who's dug into weed science over the last 10 years has figured out that MSMA in terms of efficacy was fair to good. When it came to Dallas grass. And where it really shined with Dallas grass is when you started adding additional products to it, because in and of itself, it wasn't very good. And so it required the same concoction of products, expensive products, in order to increase its efficacy, to turn it into something that made it it gathered its reputation. And in fact, the tools we have that are now have greater systemic activity, less damage, collateral damage to our surrounding turf, and there's just better options out there. And if you're wondering what those options are, again, we talked about in cool seasons lawns. We're looking at Pilex, we're looking at Fluazafop, maybe in a combination of the two, maybe combining Fluazafop with sulfentrazone. In warm season turf, We have Tribute Total. If you don't want to run Tribute Total, you can combine Celsius with Revolver, which is actually what forms Tribute Total. Making applications that, adding a little ammonium sulfate to the tank to help with penetration there, and eliminating some of the things in water that can reduce efficacy. And in fact, there's new specific Dallas grass herbicides from Syngenta, if I recall. Manuscript is pretty hyper specific to Dallas grass, if I recall correctly. So, and then again, if you want to broaden your spectrum of control in these, you start looking at the addition of things like Simazine or Syncor. If you're looking for that extra smoke your ass type of burn and return application, which I think everybody on the show is a big fan of. So there's a certain amount of ignorance here that's on full-fledged display, but you know what is that he knows. I guarantee you, he's been in this business long enough to know the ignorance of his statement, including even the way he was talking about Dallas grass control with certainty and Revolver. But he knows that it would generate a shit ton of negative press because he's mentioning the four-letter word of the lawn care industry that is that is MSMA, right? And so he wants people to argue about it and get in the comments and leave comments and all this fun stuff. I think it's better for us about it on video here. In fact, a video, I can't wait to clip up this Joe Knows Turf segment and just hurry up and roll it out. And in fact, I may do that tonight and go ahead and post it as a prequel to the release of this episode, just to let people know the importance of, one, why, in my opinion, they should be watching us, and two, to go ahead and lay a little bit of discredit to this cretin of a human being known as whatever his name is, the Ginger.
Hey, Matt, Ray, are you guys ready for dessert?
Mm-hmm. Oh no!
Go ahead, JPink. Slide down there, and let's look at that description and the links therein, if we could, please.
Oh, for Christ's sake!
No way!
Go down. Go down.
Ray.
Go down.
Ryan.
Go down.
Ryan,
oh
Ray,
shit!
Ryan.
Oh shit!
Hang on. Let me zoom in on this so I can see it. MSMA is for Zoysia, Bermuda, bluegrass, according to the label, and a paid link
that's
to
Lablo.
purchase it.
Oh my freaking goodness!
To the Lablo.
That's Lablo.
And a paid referral link to purchase
oh
it.
My!
What?
Oh my
Click
lord!
That link. Click the link.
Piece of shit. What a piece of shit.
Yeah, I mean, this is just so bad because
he did it incognito so it doesn't cookie his ass. Look at that. What a smart human being.
But what?
This is why I
what
love
a
Jake.
piece of
He teaches me this shit.
What a piece of crap. What a piece of crap. Because right here, cotton, golf courses, sod farms, and highway right-of-ways. And by the way, in most states except Florida, does not allow use of MSMA at all, I believe.
Exactly.
It's prohibited.
The other thing is that even applications on golf course and sod farms is extremely limited to zone spray or spot spray only across a certain amount of square feet. It is not like you could just go willy-nilly and tank mix this and just go make a blanket ass application of it.
No, I just had a
infuriating.
Yeah, this is horrible because all right. So, and on top of that, I've used MSMA before, right? And my experience with MSMA, as it's now touted on social media and the internet, is that it's a lousy herbicide. It's junk.
Again, it has this novelty because of its use in the past, right? It has this novelty. And I will say the fun thing about spraying MSMA is that you would go spray it, and it looked like everything was dead. The lawn was dead. The weeds against the side of the house were dead. It made the house look terrible. You got 10 phone calls from not just your customer, but every neighbor in the neighborhood called you and was like, holy shit, Matt, you got to get back out here. You killed the neighbor's yard. And then everything turned green again. And you felt like you were, I don't know, a superhero or something because everything turned green again. And you had fewer weeds than when you did the first time that you sprayed it, right? But again, when it came to long-term control, because you did that the first year, right? Well, guess what? You had to do it again the second year because it's a non-selective herbicide. For those of you that do not know, MSMA is a non-selective herbicide. It does not target specific weeds. It targets everything. That's why if you put it on fescue, you're going to end up killing 90% of your fescue. You put it on Kentucky bluegrass, you'll probably end up killing 75% of your Kentucky bluegrass. You put it on zoysia grass, it's going to take about 8 months for it to recover, if not until the next year for it to recover, especially if you don't have experience of figuring out how to make that specific application. It's very... It had its prime time in Bermuda grass, because Bermuda grass, you can't kill it anyway, right? And so that's where it gathered its reputation, and it became this superhero thing. But what you found out was that every year you had to do the same thing. And eventually people got tired of it. And as an applicator, you got tired of it too, because you got to go push a 70,000 square foot yard, and then you got to blanket spray a 70,000 square foot yard with all in the same application, and you're only getting $150 on that property, and you got to do $1,100 on the day, and now you're having to double lap it, right? And now you're having to double lap every 70,000 square foot property that you have on your route that day. And so then you start asking questions: how can I do this where next year I don't have to do that again, because this sucks? It was fun the first time, but it's not fun anymore. Application round 4 and 5 and 6 during the summer when it's 100 degrees outside, double lapping all your lawns sucks ass. And so, but what people remember are the good times, right? Everybody remembers the good times. It's like the people that used to do shit tons of cocaine, right? Boy, everybody remembers that first 2 hours. Nobody wants to talk about watching the sun come up and the feelings that go on then, right? So you get drawn back into it, like, oh man, what a great time that we had, so much fun last night. Well, and except for the fact that when the sun was coming up, I was sitting with a loaded revolver on my couch wondering if I was going to end it all, kind of thing, right? Here we are. Same thing. You're showing up for round 5. After round 4, you double lapped it. It's 111 degrees outside, and you're like, damn it, I got to do it again. And you start thinking about the revolver in your top drawer at the house because you got to double lap a 70,000 square foot yard again, right? So again, this is this is so low rent. This is the equivalent of people who put on clown costumes and shit and get on YouTube and make funny noises and funny faces purely for the clicks, and they don't give a shit. They have zero dignity, zero self-respect. It's all about attention, attention, attention. Look at me, look at me, look at me. And perfect case in point, we've got Ginger himself, who is honestly takes the cake for look at me. I thought maybe it was Ron Henry. But it's I think it may actually be Ginger. I don't know.
Well, hey, if you all I can say, this was my takeaway after watching, is if you don't get the context and don't know what you're doing, and you buy some some MSMA, which, by the way, on that link, that's actually Amazon's choice for MSMA. He's selling a good product there. But yeah, you will definitely, on cool season, especially if you use it in the case that he was describing there, you will slay that lawn. And ladies and gentlemen, that's this week's Joe Knows Turf.
I don't know if I can stop there, DeMay. God almighty. And this is the last thing I'm going to say. Again, I love the homeowner market, and I love the furthering of education of the homeowner market. And I think that's a very important thing, right? Because as an industry, we're only as strong as our weakest link. However, what this absolutely highlights is that the ginger is the weak link in our industry. And perpetuating MSMA as a solid solution for things that are going out there and giving avenues to buy it and talk about it and what a wonderful thing it is, when it's not. Go look at the data. The data's out there. In fact, I think in a previous video before where I've talked about Dallas grass, I went through some of the studies that showed a lack of efficacy, long-term efficacy for MSMA use. But to put this forward as an adequate solution and go ahead and capitalize on it by, clicking my link and shoot me a few bucks for making this recommendation to you, shows that this guy 100% does not give a shit about this industry. It does not give a shit about you, whether you're a homeowner or another professional out there. The only thing he gives a shit about is generating attention and whatever kind of feel good euphoria he gets from that attention, whether it be positive or negative, and capitalizing on it, of course, right? Because damn it, he's gathered all this knowledge, quote unquote knowledge, which it just clearly does not exist, but in his head it does exist. So in the midst of this god complex knowledge base that he's generated, boy, he'll share it with you for what is it, 12% or 15% or 7% off his Amazon sale. That's how he values the knowledge he's put together, because he knows he doesn't fucking know what he's talking about. Let's check out this week's burns. Does he get? I don't know. Was that our burns for the week right there too? That was Joe Knows Turf and our burns.
I wanted to lead in with that to get you in the right frame of mind.
Boy, you did, didn't you? And now I feel terrible going right into this because I rant and then
yeah, this is not good.
A Mississippi man died of a heat stroke while mowing his church lawn. An 82-year-old man in Sardis. By the way, where's Hungry Southerner? Do you remember when we were talking about Sardis in the Discord one time, DeMay?
I do.
Lake Sardis. Let me tell you, there's been a lot of people that have found the Lord on Sardis. And old man was preserving this property to make sure that the next generation of teenagers got to have those experiences that brought them closer to the Lord here in Sardis, Mississippi, which is, let me tell you, that's a hell of a place. If you've never been, I highly recommend you go. Shout out to my mom and my family in that area. But old 82-year-old man here was mowing the lawn at his church and died of heat stroke, and that is just absolutely horrific. And
stay safe out there.
Yes, do not take this heat lightly, and especially if you're of older age. It is no joke. And then we have another one here. My God. A landscaper killed in a D.C. road rage shooting linked to leaf blower. Jason Ford, 45, was shot in an act of road rage on West Virginia Avenue in D.C., police say. His widow said a driver was angry about grass clippings blown onto his car.
Jeez. What is
the
wrong
killing
with
was
people, man?
over somebody blowing grass and him apologizing. Ford was supervising a crew doing yard work in the Trinidad area when the grass clippings landed on a shiny black car parked nearby. The driver was angry. Ford apologized. A man who appeared to be a friend of the driver rode up on a rental scooter, and he and the driver spoke. The crew left and was stopped at a light on West Virginia Avenue. That's when the man on the scooter reappeared and opened fire, hitting Ford in the chest and killed a 45-year-old man for out here grinding his ass off in one of the most difficult day-to-day industries that relies on the weather, and you have people like me who shit on mowing grass all the time, and this guy's out here making it for him and his wife and his family, and then somebody on a scooter rides up and shoots his ass. It's just disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting.
That's my only thing to say about that is like just are we just more aware of this shit going on, or is it getting worse? That's my only question.
Okay,
I don't know.
I think
I don't know the answer.
I think in most cases, this is more about we're just getting more aware. But I counter this with this idea of, if I am facing nutty people that can't keep their fucking hands to themselves and also cannot, restrain themselves and think that the answer is, okay, I'm mad at somebody, so I'm going to open fire, which, by the way, that is just, to me, horrible. And it's horrible to me because, okay, two things. Just because you're angry at somebody doesn't mean you put hands on them. And it sure as fuck doesn't mean that you shoot them either. Okay? I mean, and the fact that people would. Okay? Because here's an example of whitewashing, Matt and Ryan. Here in Hawaii, if you blow debris on somebody's shiny black car, you'll probably get maimed. And that will be whitewashed. Okay?
Sad stuff, man. That's why it's in the
Sad.
burns.
Yeah, that's what, this is horrible.
And let's keep up the overwhelming lack of positivity here, where a CU student in Louisville, Colorado student has thousands of dollars of lawn equipment stolen. Thousands of dollars worth of his lawn equipment. Jaden Kazantsev, it was swiped, leaving him with little option other than renting tools until he can save up to replace the stolen property. Man, the guy started when he was 12 years old using his family's lawnmower. Once he turned 15, he started taking the job more seriously. He saved up cash, bought a truck, trailer, new lawn equipment, and now at 19, he's got 6 employees and been paying his way through freaking college at the University of Colorado in Boulder. And you know what? Last Saturday, some of his crew parked one of the trucks along with some of the equipment in a Louisville neighborhood. They left it parked where it's always been parked. It's been parked there for years with no problem. When the crew returned Monday morning, he said the truck and all the equipment with it were gone. The equipment total is $15,000, more than what the truck is worth.
Gosh.
He filed a police report and all that, and the truck showed up Monday night, but none of the equipment was there. Lawnmowers, weed whackers, gas cans, blowers, trimmers were all taken. I know they don't know my story, and it wasn't personal, but why? It causes so much pain to have your stuff stolen. Additionally, he's been checking on websites to see if he can find it. 5 days a week, 20 lawns a day. Even if I have to push it back 2 days, it's like 50 lawns I have to catch up on. And that's the thing that, you know, and from a service provider perspective is it's one thing to have all your equipment stolen, but then you still have customers you have to service. And then you start calling, you're like, yeah, my equipment was stolen. And they're like, yeah, but my grass is like 9 inches tall. And they start calling around to have somebody cut it, and you're not going to find anybody to cut your lawn one time. They're going to be like, if you want me to cut your yard, you're going to have to sign up with service. Now all of a sudden the kid's going to start losing customers left and right because he's got no other choice, because he's not going to be able to get out there. And then that's the real impact that has on this kid's business, who is a contributing member of society at 19, paying his way through college, out there grinding again in a very thankless environment, and then this shit happens. I don't know if this kid has a GoFundMe. I'm gonna Google his name.
It's on the link. It's on the link there.
Is it,
or the news article at the bottom of the news article?
Oh my! Oh my! Okay.
If anybody's of the means to be able to do this, show this kid some support and help him get his business back, because you know what, again, this is the future of the green industry right here, and a 19-year-old kid out here getting it done the best he can, and so if you're of means to be able to do so, show a boy some love here, and help him get back on his feet, because this is the kind of shit that drives people out of business, and that's the unfortunate part of it. Wow, that was heady. Oh boy, I forgot about what she had in the returns here. All right, let's do our returns. This first one. I'm back. Our first return here, DeMay listed as return as is this?
Listen, it's a callback. It's a callback from what is it? Cut and Kill is the lawn care company up there in we'll just say the greater South Dakota area, and that was the group. JP, you want to pull the article up? We need to see this. We need to see that picture. Go down there a little bit. So listen,
yes.
Now, Ray, you got to understand a couple of things here. Number one, I'm not. This is just real talk right now. If you think I'm dogging them, whatever. I'm sorry. I'm just real talk. They get an F for spray coverage, right? Spray pattern,
without a doubt.
Not very good.
Yeah,
but listen, the density of this route, that's an A+. That's a winner. Look how many houses in a row they've got right there. You know?
Yeah.
You're gonna make your $1,000 in a day and go home real quick.
Mm-hmm.
However,
you're home by 3.
However, Matt, I mean, here's something that people need to understand. You know, when you sign up for general liability for your business, there's often a little exclusion, sometimes in fine print, on that GL policy. And you know what that little exclusion is? Your insurance doesn't.
Oh, go ahead.
Your insurance does not cover what they deem acts of negligence. So, if I were to go out,
I mean, all you got
and mistake, say, Ornament for Super Trimec, and go out and spray lawns, and everybody's St. Augustine and Bermuda goes bye-bye, my insurance company will say, sorry, Ray, that ain't covered. That ain't covered. I mean, it's your fault, your negligence for not reading the label before loading the sprayer.
I think if you looked at this photo and said, hey, without knowing any context, what does this look like to you? I would say negligence. Now, moving down here into the article, basically Cut and Kill will no longer provide mowing and fertilizer services, according to an email sent from Cut and Kill to its customers earlier this week. The email informed customers that Cut and Kill would no longer provide services including mower, fertilizer, trimming, rock bed maintenance, and roundup effective July 1. Owner Tate Eining said that in the email, this is because of an employee shortage and issues caused by the chemical accident this spring. Cut and Kill will still provide other services and repair the lawns affected by the chemical burn, Eining said. Other Cut and Kill services include sodding, irrigation, landscape, and pest control. A total of 302 properties around Sioux Falls burned up in early May from a weed control application by the Harrisburg-based company. The insurance provider for the company said they will not cover the damage, as you alluded to, right? Argus leader reached out to Eining for further comment and confirmation, but have not yet received a response. So listen, tough situation. I feel for them. I'm sure nobody woke up and was like, hey, man, I'm going to go spray some lawns with the Roundup today. Like, that didn't happen. Somebody made an honest but costly mistake, and here we are. So it's probably good. I think if there's any message here that is a return, Matt and Ray, it's focus what you're good on, right? And maybe they got out over their skis on this one. Maybe, who knows, right? But not having quality employees and still trying to get stuff done that could have these type of consequences is never a recipe for success in business, right? Just like, you don't want to have people working in your fertilizer plant that are okay with removing their hand because they think they can get a $50,000 check. I mean, I just don't think it's going to be a good yeah. Charlie, I don't think it's going to be a good fit, man. Sorry. You're going to end up like Chubbs on Happy Gilmore.
Ooh, you.
Anyway.
Get those leeches. Anyway. I'm not getting good circulation, which is actually what they had to do. Florida man tries to flee deputies on a riding lawnmower. Why I put this in returns or whoever did, I don't know.
Oh, I did. Listen, I just put this in there because, listen, you got to admire the confidence. Whatever this gentleman was on or whatever he was doing prior to, you have got to admire the confidence for him to say it either out loud or in his mind. You know what, man? I'm gonna run away from a place down this here Ryobi electric mower. Or he could have. What do you think? I don't know if they have a picture of it. If we had to guess, I'm gonna go. Oh yeah, he definitely purchased a Sears Craftsman mower, probably at a yard sale somewhere. And we got body cam. Oh, they had a gun too. Probably not. Yeah.
Who knows, Matt? Maybe this guy probably ripped off or stole the mower that he escaped from authorities. I mean,
could have been. He's got a history of doing things like this. He also had a pipe that contained methamphetamine because there's nothing that says I'm going to run away from police on a lawnmower like a meth-induced haze. Mobley had gotten away from authorities back in early January when he drove into a swamp along the Yellow River as deputies tried to talk to him about a $40,000 stolen boat. He was
Oh,
allegedly
God.
on the boat when deputies arrived, but dove off the side and disappeared
not
in
my
the swamp
boat.
to avoid going to jail. Yeah, I'm just
It's not mine.
all right. And then he had used heavy machinery to cut a hole in a metal building in order to steal the vessel. So the guy is not a good guy. He's a meth head, and he's toting a gun around in that scenario too. And it looks like he may have used this John Deere to try and escape. I don't know if you saw that picture, but it is a John Deere with the airless tires. Is it the Never Flats?
The Tweel. Oh, he's got the Tweel.
Yeah, the Tweels. Yeah,
The Tweels. Yeah. Okay. So
I mean, what do those do in transport mode? You probably got what, 15 miles an hour?
You can probably get up and go.
But
I mean,
I don't
I would've
know
left.
what police officers are driving this day, but I mean, 18 miles an
I
hour. You
would-
got
I'll
a
tell you what,
30
I
horsepower
really-
motor on that 25.
really would have loved to see a especially with that roll bar down, would have loved to see the dash cam video of them doing a pit maneuver on this guy. That would have been special.
Let's check out this week's mailbag.
You've got mail.
This first one that we have from Adam here, he's got a Bradford pair and suckers are always showing up. How can I get rid of them for good or temporarily for a while? Thank you, sirs. In my opinion, this is a super easy thing to do is just cut the damn thing down and then triclopyr, drill and triclopyr the stump. Otherwise, you're just going to mow it and mow it and mow it and mow it, and you can spray the suckers with triclopyr and they're not going to do anything. So cut that damn thing down. Do y'all have any other opinion on that?
Okay.
It's an
I know of
invasive
this
species for a
product-
reason.
Yeah, I know of this product called Sucker Stopper, and it's intended to be used on suckering trees where you apply it to the cut after you've chopped off the suckers. However, Matt, you just said the word where if this tree is actually invasive, I'd say, in the friends of my arborist friend, one final basil cut. And then I'm going to get funny and say, I want crossbow.
Ooh, wow.
I want
I like
crossbow.
Diversification of AIs there. A little 2,4-D, a little
Yeah.
triclopyr, and hammer it out. Lonegoose is following up with this. We diagnosed his issues red thread, and he went and grabbed what he could get, and the only thing he was able to get was Headway G at his local Site 1. Got it, put it down, and after 3 weeks, all this red thread has completely cleared up. So here we got a little A+ to the strobilurin
A little return. A little
DMI
return,
combination there. Yep. Look at that, doing damn good.
Nice. Nice.
And then we have Nick S. here who writes in and said, I've been listening to you guys for about a year now. I've learned a ton. I live in Southwest Virginia and have 16,000 square feet of Zenith zoysia. The lawn was a mix of different grasses, weeds, mostly fescue, and I killed the lawn off, leveled it, and hydroseeded the zoysia grass last year. The summer, it really looks great, very dense in most areas. There are, however, patches of nimblewill that came back throughout the lawn. It doesn't look terrible, but I've worked so hard, it drives me crazy to see anything but zoysia grass. I can't find any solutions to get rid of the nimblewill except for glyphosate and reseeding, which I don't think I'll do. It's too widespread throughout the lawn. Any other options? Nutrient levels are good, blah, blah, blah. Only herbicides used are prodiamine in the spring and one app of fusilade and triclopyr raised recommendation rates for Bermuda suppression. Let's see. So I have run had good success with nimblewill with my Monument applications, and normally I would run Monument with a little spiker of 2,4-D in it, and it would just evaporate any nimblewill that I typically dealt with. Bray, is there anything in particular you like to use on nimblewill if you even have it in warm season grass?
I don't think I even have seen it here because it's too hot here where I'm at for nimblewill to even exist. But if I had to do it in the transition zone, I would like Monument. I would like Celsius. I would actually like a combination of Celsius and Monument, 2-for-1, kill grassy weeds and any nutsedge that happens to be hanging around. Or other option is Tribute Total. Because here's where Tribute Total shines. Tribute Total is a pretty handy product for a lot of grassy weeds because of that 4M sulfuron and iodosulfuron combination. Yeah, I mean it's basically 1-2 on a lot of your cool season grasses and paspalum species. So, however, here's one more thing about that fusillade triclopyr combination. The first time might not do the job, because when you're doing a fusillade triclopyr program in zoysia for grassy weed removal, I find that it needs to be done at least 2 to 3 times. And by the way, if you do manage to get kill of something the first time, odds are your application rate is way over, and expect your zoysia to go too.
Yeah.
Oops.
Yeah. Whoops. Exactly.
So
Bye bye MSMA. How about that?
Busy Bees also says metsulfuron methyl. He's had success with that as well for Nimblewell. Gentlemen, we are going to get the hell out of here and let the patrons name this episode. I want to thank everybody for tuning in, and gentlemen, thank you for joining me. And DeMay, I got to give you a big, giant, sincere FU for this week's Joe Knows Turf. That was absolutely perfectly executed, sir. Perfectly executed.
So bad, Ryan.
And for those of you that don't know, that the patrons are watching live right now, and we got a 2 for this week, so we're going to roll right into the recording of the next one. Coming up on Thursday, we have Elevated Lawnscapes. We have Cam, who's coming back to talk to us about what he's got going on this year. So if you're around, tune in for that, because that's going to be a fun one. We'll get some updates, what's been going on across the year, and hey, see what's going on. Y'all take it easy.